starts.
All right, black and white sports reporters. Well, it just went nuclear. It just went nuclear. The WNBA and the NBA, the owners fed up. The investors fed up. And they have now drawn the line into the sand.
Nuclear. That's the word being thrown around right now, and it's not an exaggeration. The WNBA just drew a line in the sand with a March 10th deadline, and if the players don't sign by then, the 2026 season gets delayed. Not postponed. Not adjusted. Delayed. And here's what makes this different from every other labor dispute you've seen. This league doesn't have the luxury of a work stoppage. They don't have decades of history to fall back on. They don't have a fan base that'll wait around no matter what. They have momentum, and momentum dies fast.
Annie Constable, front office sports. WNBA tells players season will be delayed without labor deal by March 10th. The WNBA told players that the sides would need to agree to a labor deal by March 10, or the season would be delayed per a source, league source confirmed to front office sports. The sides have blown several deadlines as they negotiated over a new collective bargaining agreement for more than a year and are rapidly closing in May 8th, scheduled date for the start of the season.
March 10th. 2 weeks from when this ultimatum was delivered. The league told the Players Association in a bargaining session on Monday, February 24th, that without a deal by that date, May 8th is off the table. That's the scheduled season opener. And here's what's been happening. The sides have been negotiating for over a year. They've blown through multiple deadlines already. The previous CBA expired January 9th, and they've been operating under what's called status quo ever since. That means the league is functionally frozen. No free agency, no trades, no expansion draft for the 2 new teams joining the league. Everything is on hold, while the Players Association holds out for a salary cap north of $9 million per team. The league's offer? $5.6 million. That's the number they're not budging from.
The sides swapped proposals last week, with the league not budging off its offer of $5.6 million per team. That's on the salary cap. Players have sought a salary cap of more than $9 million. It's 9.5, and a greater share of league revenue. The league claims the players' proposed structure is, quote, unrealistic and would cause hundreds of millions of dollars in losses for the league and its teams.
Let's be clear about what the players are asking for. They want a salary cap of $9.5 million per team, and they want a greater share of league revenue. The WNBA's response has been direct. That proposal is unrealistic and would cause hundreds of millions of dollars in losses for the league and its teams. Now, you might hear that and think it's just typical negotiation posturing. Ownership always claims poverty during labor talks. But here's the context that changes everything. These players just received their first ever revenue-sharing bonus in the history of the league. Ever. That happened because the WNBA finally turned a corner financially. Viewership exploded, sponsorships rolled in, the league made actual money for the first time in 28 years, and now they're threatening to kill that momentum over a gap of $4 million per team.
Do I think if you put a vote to every player out there, it would pass? It would pass. If it was a secret vote and all the vindictive players in the league wouldn't have the ability to know who cast what vote in what direction, I think it would pass today. I do believe that.
Think about what a secret ballot would reveal right now. If every player in the WNBA could vote anonymously on whether to accept the league's current offer without fear of backlash from teammates or social media pylons, what would happen? The speculation is that it would pass easily. Because most players understand the math. They understand that $5.6 million per team, combined with revenue sharing that's already being paid out, is a massive step forward from where this league was 3 years ago. But the Players Association leadership has created an environment where accepting anything less than their demand looks like weakness, where compromise gets you labeled as someone who doesn't fight for the sisterhood. That's how you end up with inflatable rats and social media campaigns instead of a signed deal.
It's time to get moving, WNBPA. Stop being greedy. Take the deal. Let's play basketball. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot kill the momentum of this league right now. You just got your first ever revenue share bonus. Ever. In the history of ever. And now you're going to kill that momentum?
The comparison to other sports leagues is unavoidable here. The NFL has survived work stoppages, Major League Baseball barely survived the 1994 strike, and that league had over a century of history built up. The NBA weathered a lockout in 2011 because fans knew the product would come back. But the WNBA? They're 28 years old. They've spent most of that time fighting for relevance. Last season was the breakthrough. Caitlin Clark's rookie year brought in record television ratings. The playoff games were actually profitable. Corporate sponsors who'd ignored the league for decades suddenly wanted in. Charter flights became standard instead of a luxury. The players got their first taste of what success feels like in this league. And now there's a real possibility they're going to walk away from the table and let the season get delayed. If that happens, this league is done. Not struggling, not rebuilding. Done.
To recover. This is it. Now, what's my prediction? That on March 9th at 11 p.m. Eastern time, Central time, that'd be midnight Eastern. Let's say 11 p.m. Eastern time, they will get a deal done. It's going to be a down-to-the-wire.
Adam Silver isn't playing games anymore. The NBA commissioner, who oversees the WNBA's operations, just put a clock on this entire negotiation, March 10th at midnight Eastern Time. That's the prediction for when a deal gets done, assuming it gets done at all. Because here's how this plays out. The Players Association will drag this to the absolute last second to save face. They'll want to tell their membership that they fought until the final moment to extract every possible concession. They'll frame whatever deal they sign as a victory won through their unwavering solidarity and refusal to back down. The press release will talk about how they secured historic gains for women's basketball, but everyone paying attention knows the truth. The league called their bluff, and they're going to fold.
How about catch me outside? How about that? Adam Silver done put the Dr. Phil thug chick on him. Catch this deadline. How about that? Tell me what you think. Woo! Woo! Peace, I'm out.
Here's what makes this entire situation so frustrating to watch. The WNBA players have legitimate grievances. For years, they were treated as an afterthought. They flew commercial, while NBA players had charter jets. They played in half-empty arenas with minimal marketing support. Their salaries were embarrassingly low compared to what they could make overseas. The previous CBA was inadequate, and everyone knew it. So when the players started advocating for better conditions, they had public support. Fans wanted to see them get paid fairly. Media coverage was sympathetic. The narrative was simple. These women deserve more. But somewhere along the way, the Players Association lost the plot. Instead of capitalizing on the league's best financial year ever and securing a deal that would have been unimaginable 5 years ago, they overplayed their hand. They started making demands that don't align with economic reality. They leaked selective information to make ownership look greedy while hiding the fact that they'd already received revenue-sharing bonuses. They turned what should have been a straightforward negotiation into a public relations war. And now they're facing a deadline that could destroy everything they've built. The salary cap dispute comes down to this. The league is offering $5.6 million per team. The players want $9.5 million. That's a gap of $3.9 million per team. Multiply that across all 12 teams, and you're talking about an additional $46.8 million in player salaries. The WNBA's position is that the league can't afford that increase without going back into the red. The Players Association's position is that the league is lowballing them and hiding profits. Who's right? Look at the evidence. The WNBA just completed its first profitable season in league history. That's not speculation. That's confirmed. But profitable doesn't mean swimming in cash. It means they finally stopped losing money after 27 years of being subsidized by the NBA. The league's revenue for 2025 is projected to be around $200 million. That's up significantly from previous years, driven almost entirely by the Caitlin Clark effect and increased media rights deals. But $200 million in revenue for a 12-team league with full operations, travel, facilities, and marketing costs doesn't leave massive room for salary increases. The players got their first revenue-sharing checks last year. That's new money that didn't exist under the old CBA. The league's offer of $5.6 million per team represents a substantial increase from the current $4.3 million cap. That's a 30% raise in the salary cap, plus revenue sharing on top of it. In any other context, that would be celebrated as a massive win. But the Players Association has convinced itself that anything less than their demand is an insult. They've created a narrative where compromise equals betrayal, and that's how you end up staring down a deadline that could cancel the start of the season. Think about the timing of this. The league needs to conduct free agency, hold an expansion draft for the Golden State Valkyries and Toronto, and run the college draft before the season starts. All of that requires a signed CBA. Without one, none of it can happen. The May 8th season opener is already tight. If negotiations drag past March 10th, the league physically won't have time to complete all the necessary business before that date. Games will have to be postponed. The schedule will have to be redrawn. Sponsors who committed to opening week will have to be notified. Television partners will have to adjust their programming. And fans will tune out. Because here's what casual viewers hear when they see headlines about a delayed season. Millionaire athletes fighting with billionaire owners over money. It doesn't matter that WNBA players aren't millionaires. It doesn't matter that the owners have been subsidizing losses for decades. The optics are terrible. The league just had its best year ever, and now they can't start the next season on time because the two sides can't agree on how to split the money? That's how you lose the momentum that took 28 years to build. The Players Association's strategy has been baffling from the start. They've leaked information selectively, trying to paint ownership as greedy while positioning themselves as fighters for equality. But the leaked details have backfired. When news broke that players had received revenue-sharing bonuses, it undercut their argument that the league was hiding profits. When the specific salary cap numbers came out, $5.6 million versus $9.5 million, it became clear that the gap was about projections and risk tolerance, not ownership refusing to pay fairly. And then there are the social media campaigns, the inflatable rats outside arenas, the coordinated posts about knowing your worth and not settling. All of that plays well with the hardcore fan base that's already invested in the league. But it alienates everyone else. Corporate sponsors don't want to be associated with labor strife. Television executives don't want to promote a league that might not have a season. Casual fans don't want to invest time and energy into following a sport that can't get its house in order. The players had all the leverage coming into these negotiations. They had public support. They had a successful season to point to. They had momentum, and they've squandered it by overreaching and turning this into a confrontation instead of a collaboration. Now compare this to how other leagues have handled similar situations. When the NBA had its lockout in 2011, both sides took a hit in public perception, but the league survived because fans knew the product was too valuable to stay dark forever. When the NHL lost an entire season in 2004, it took years to recover, and that league had 87 years of history. The WNBA doesn't have that cushion. They're still building their audience. They're still proving their value to sponsors and media partners. They can't afford to give people a reason to forget about them, and that's exactly what a delayed season would do. It would give fans permission to move on, to spend their attention and money elsewhere, to decide that maybe women's basketball isn't worth following if it's going to be this much drama every time a CBA comes up. The March 10th deadline is real. It's not a negotiating tactic. It's not posturing. The league needs time to execute all the business that's been frozen since January 9th. If the Players Association doesn't sign by that date, the consequences are immediate and severe. The season gets delayed. The league loses credibility. Sponsors get nervous. Media partners start questioning their investment, and all the goodwill built up from last season evaporates. So what happens next? The smart money says a deal gets done on March 9th, probably around 11 p.m. Eastern Time. The Players Association will drag it to the last possible moment to claim they fought until the end. They'll sign something very close to the league's current offer, maybe with minor tweaks to save face. They'll issue a statement about securing historic gains and standing strong for future generations, and everyone will pretend like this wasn't a completely avoidable crisis created by unrealistic demands and poor strategy. But the damage will already be done. Because even if the season starts on time, this entire negotiation has revealed a fundamental disconnect between the Players Association's perception of the league's finances and the actual reality. It's shown that the leadership is willing to risk everything over demands that don't align with what the business can support. And it's demonstrated that when given the opportunity to capitalize on success, they'd rather fight about what they think they deserve than lock in what's actually available. The WNBA was handed a gift last season. Caitlin Clark brought in millions of new viewers. Ratings were up across the board. Merchandise sales exploded. The league finally made money. And instead of building on that foundation with a quick CBA that would have let everyone focus on basketball, the Players Association turned it into a standoff that's now threatening the entire 2026 season. If this deadline passes without a deal, if games actually get delayed, it'll be the most on-brand ending possible for how the players have conducted themselves over the past year. All the momentum, all the progress, all the new fans, gone because they couldn't accept a deal that would have been considered a massive victory just 3 years ago. That's not fighting for your worth, that's self-sabotage, and the league might not recover from it.